You know, Chloe, when I was younger, we couldn't wait for Dyngus Day. I used to write in my diary all the fun we had. It seems just like yesterday.
Dear Diary, it's almost here. You can smell spring in the air, and soon it will be warm again. We will laugh and we will sing while the boys chase us with pussy willow branches and splashing water. Oh, how I love Dyngus Day.
Live from the historic Polonia district in Buffalo, New York, the Dyngus Day capital of the world. It's Dyngus Day Diary. Now here's your hosts, Autumn Lewandowski and Eddie Doboshevich.
Wow, 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 wow. This is amazing.
It always is. It's absolutely wonderful here in the Polonia district, the east side of Buffalo, a sea of red. I've been envisioning it all day, and it's way surpassed my expectations.
This has gotten so big, I can't believe it. I looked at some footage of the very first parade that we did in 2007. Behind us during the parade, there were maybe 25 or 30 people, and there must be 20,000 people.
And look at it on our Skywatch 7 this afternoon. You see the central train terminal, the tops of all the tents that we have, and maybe even the sea of red. If we zoomed in, you might be able to see us as ants.
We're waving to you, folks. Oh, it's just incredible. This parade has gotten so big, and people anticipated so much. And the weather, Autumn, could the weather be any better?
We were forecasting it for a while. The start of the parade, how beautiful it was to begin as a blessing, and then to go around the entire district was just really fun and really wet, let me tell you. It wasn't from rain from the sky. It was from super soakers across the area.
You almost didn't make it into the parade.
Not at all.
You made up for it once you got there. So much laughter, so much laughter, so much music, so much fun going on here. Great food, great friendships, great families.
Definitely. All of the Polish that we have, and they're so in sync with culture and all of the music and the literature and dancing, a lot of dancing.
Lots of dancing. Even when we kicked off the parade, there were lots of dancers at the beginning of the parade. There were lots of dancers last night at the pre-Dyngus Day kickoff at the Leonard Post. We blessed all the instruments, we blessed all the kids, and boy, oh boy, there was dancing galore there. Here's some dancers over here at the Dyngus Day Parade at the beginning of it today. This happened just about an hour and a half ago as it walked down Broadway and made its way down Fillmore, through Memorial, right behind us.
Oh, there we were.
That was amazing. And so much dancing. You know, the Poles have such a rich history of culture in the arts, you know, in literature and in dancing.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just went over to catch a rehearsal with a brand new dance group, the Rodzina dance group at the Polish Cadets in Black Rock. Really, really beautiful costumes and wonderful choreography and a wonderful vibe. So we caught up with them and found a little bit about Polish dancing and its history from one of its founders, Lisa Florzak. And this is what Polish dancing is all about. Check this out.
Rodzina is the Polish word for family. We all feel like family to each other. Polish folk dancing is a beautiful expression of the rich culture of the Polish people. It's called Krakowiak. It's probably the most widely recognized of all of the national Polish folk dances. The costume pieces themselves, too, tell a story. The girls who are married would wear a scarf on their heads, whereas the girls who are single would wear a wreath of flowers on their heads. It's going to be around so long as I'm around.
You know, it's hard to believe that this was once the second largest Polish colony in the world outside of Warsaw.
It's amazing. So many immigrated to this neighborhood.
Right, and it has a rich, colorful history, this area. And here's the story of how it all began right here in historic Polonia in Buffalo, New York. Before 1873, the area surrounding Broadway Fillmore was nothing more than fields, streams, and orchards. That all changed when Joseph Bork donated land to a priest looking for a congregation. That congregation became St. Stanislaus Church. A few years after the Reverend John Pitas was ordained into the priesthood, he took on the task of building a church and a school that not only became the mother church of Polonia, but the bedrock for a community that would grow into one of the largest Polish colonies anywhere in the world, right here in Buffalo. It was a match made in heaven. Bork had the homes and Pitas had the church. Dave Franchik should know his history. He's a history professor, but he's also a proud Pole who's worked to preserve Polonia's legacy in the midst of a seismic demographic shift over the last 3 decades. He knows the past affects the future and how important it is to remember where we came from.
Home ownership was very, very important, and then they had to have a church. A church was very important. That's why St. Stan's was so vital to them.
But the church played a much larger role than that of spiritual shepherding.
You know, a lot of those early first-generation priests in ethnic neighborhoods were more than just religious leaders. They were social leaders, they were entrepreneurs, they wanted to get the economy going, they encouraged ownership, they encouraged home ownership. And, you know, for their own self-serving reasons, they wanted to build a parish, but they're also trying to strengthen their community.
And strengthen it they did. Polish immigrants by the tens of thousands flocked to the east side of Buffalo, building even more churches and homes and a business district that rivaled that of downtown. It was a city within a city.
A study in the Reader's Digest showed that at one time the Broadway Fillmore area was the busiest neighborhood shopping district in the nation.
The unprecedented growth of Buffalos Polonia seemed unstoppable. But yet, even with an influx of immigrants following World War II, change was headed right toward the intersection of Broadway and Fillmore. The post-World War II era saw many things: peace, prosperity, affordable cars, and the development of suburbs across the nation, to name a few. It also saw the beginning of an exodus from a once mighty Buffalo neighborhood.
Despite all the problems, despite all the changes, the only constant is change. We know that. So hopefully the change going forward is going to be even better.
If you really like pierogi, and who doesn't?
Over 2,000 an hour. Yes. That's pretty amazing.
We'll take you inside a pierogi factory that makes thousands every day. Dyngus Day Diary will continue right after this.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo. Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo, from all of us here at Extra.
Now here are your hosts, Autumn Lewandowski and Eddie Dobushevich.
And welcome back. We went from history to where the future of this neighborhood is now going.
And the future is bright. People think that this neighborhood is gone and forgotten, but their future is bright. And here is a little story about what we think the future holds for this historic Polonia district in the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood. The east side of Buffalo was once the densest area of the city. Parades and vibrant commerce were commonplace. The fall of this forgotten neighborhood was staggering, but the rediscovery of its potential and current reawakening are even more remarkable. Steve Carneth is the director of Broadway Fillmore NHS. He sees things through fresh eyes.
I sort of consider Broadway Fillmore to be ground zero in the city in terms of need, but also has a great deal of potential.
Although many see nothing more than boarded-up buildings and the ravages of poverty, others are rediscovering this area from a whole different perspective.
Getting to know the neighborhood has been sort of a revelation. I think what distinguishes, for me, this neighborhood, just the sheer number of churches, the skyline in this neighborhood, is sort of incredible. They almost act as sort of like a steel framework for the neighborhood. As they've done for the last 100 years, I think they'll help define the neighborhood going forward for the next 100 years.
In the last 10 years, the influx of immigrants from Pakistan and Bangladesh, the building of a Buddhist temple, as well as the rediscovery of the affordability and hip urban vibe of this area have not only solidified the housing stock, but property values have risen dramatically, while business at the area family-owned taverns, stores, and the Broadway market have all increased. With all the talk recently of a train station moving back into the central terminal, there's new hope in these streets. Now, no one expects a train station moving back into this building will be the solution to this neighborhood's problems, but it's a good step forward. SUNY professor and director of projects for Stinson Development, Stephen Fitzmaurice, sees this area as an economic opportunity.
We look at the neighborhood and we see a wonderful opportunity for it to improve, and that's the upside for them. It's the upside for our project. The building has the ability to provide hundreds of construction jobs, hundreds of permanent jobs, and eventually become an area where we can put new housing. Somebody has to take the first leap. I think that's going to be us, and once Stinson Developments does that, then I think everything's going to flow after that.
And it focuses the attention of the city and other developers on the Broadway-Fillmore neighborhood. There's some industrial buildings here, some commercial buildings here, some wonderful churches here, there's schools here, there's retail here. If you think Buffalo is cool because it's gritty, there's nothing grittier right now than Broadway-Fillmore, and that makes it sort of the next cool urban frontier, if you will, in Buffalo.
Don't count out the perseverance of the Poles, and also don't count out the perseverance of eating. They love to eat, they love to cook, and if you don't believe me, check out Autumn's little trip to a pierogi factory just a few blocks away from here at the Broadway Market.
Thanks, Eddie. This definitely doesn't look like Jaji and Bob's kitchen at home. It's a factory front here at the Broadway Market where this machine can crank out over 2,000 pierogi an hour. That's a far cry from 200 or 300 that you might do in Grandma's kitchen at home. We have owner of Bob's Pierogi here with us, Linda. Why don't you tell us how you went from Grandma's kitchen to here?
Hi, Autumn. We've been making pierogi since we were young children. I'm 100% Polish, and when I first met my husband, he is 100% German. So he had never had a pierogi. And his first experience was with your traditional cheese and kraut, and he just thought there could be something more interesting.
And that's what's so interesting about Bob's Pierogi, because there are so many different flavors. How did you start experimenting or finding out which ones worked, which ones didn't, and what's some of the best flavors you have?
Our best flavor is the stuffed banana pepper and the beef on whack. And I am a hairdresser by trade, so as we would play with different flavors, I would bring them into my salon and have my clients test them, give them samples, and let them critique them and tell me what they liked and what they didn't.
And so the beef on wick, that's so Buffalo. So we went from going 200 or 300 that you could maybe make in 2 or 3 hours or something
hours.
Like that.
Absolutely.
And this one, kind of slow now, but it could go up to 2,000, over 2,000 an hour,
Over 2,000 an hour, yes.
That's pretty amazing.
So on an average day, we'll make about, by the time we make our fillings and make the dough, we'll make about 5,000 a day or more, depending on the season.
And they can go into how many stores now?
15.
15 stores? Well, I can't wait to try them. Let's stop talking. Let's start making them.
Absolutely.
Oh, and that's the sound of making pierogi in the kitchen. Bob's Pierogi. Tell us how we make pierogi.
First, we start by taking our fresh pierogi and putting them in boiling water for 5 to 7 minutes until they start to float to the top. And then we put them on the hot griddle with some caramelized onions and butter.
And so that's how we traditionally make them, probably the way you made them in your grandma's kitchen when you were little till now.
Absolutely.
And we talked about them being natural. What is natural ingredients?
Natural ingredients means going to the farm around the corner and buying your potatoes as opposed to potato flakes. And it also means making our own homemade sauerkraut as opposed to bags of sauerkraut or cans that you would get in a supermarket.
I can't wait to try them. Let's go see what people think.
Okay.
So, ladies, what do you think?
These are awesome. Really good. I'm Norwegian, and I still love them. Very good.
How do you like like them.
Wow, you got back fast, huh? There's food and autumn comes back fast. But there's a lot more to go, so don't go anywhere. Dyngus Day Diary continues in just a moment. I'm going to be...
Now we're the caretakers of that. And it's our job to make sure it continues to be around for centuries.
Coming up, we'll go inside one of the oldest churches in Polonia and learn a thing or two about Polish perseverance. Don't move. Dyngus Day Diary will be right back.
Happy Dyngus Day to all of my friends in Buffalo.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo!
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.
Schmengus Dingus, Buffalo!
Now here are your hosts, Autumn Lewandowski and Eddie Dobusiewicz.
Well, Eddie, what do we have up next?
We're going to continue our talk about perseverance. Lots of churches in this neighborhood. Here's one that just won't quit, and neither will their parishioners.
We send in an appeal to Rome to stop them from closing St. Adalbert's.
The future of the second oldest Polish church in Buffalo may be uncertain, but getting there might be clearer if you know where you came from. When the first Poles immigrated into Buffalo, New York, word quickly spread to relatives and friends back in Europe that the shores of Lake Erie were fertile with jobs and opportunity. As the colony grew, one church was not enough to satisfy the spiritual needs of their community, so a second church was authorized and named after the Bohemian-born former Bishop of Prague, St. Adalbert.
St. Adalbert's was an offshoot almost of St. Stanislaus, Bishop and Martyr Church. At the height of it, I mean, you had, a dozen parishes, all within just a several block radius here, almost all of which now are gone.
The neighborhood weakened, but St. Adalbert stayed strong through the 80s, all the while attracting new parishioners who were looking for a spiritual home and a welcoming community.
It was like an extension of your family. I mean, friendly, caring. That's what I recall of it.
Ted and Janet Knazik found their way to St. Adalbert's when their son Todd entered a public high school but wanted to maintain a religious element to his education.
And this was a religious ed class. We became parishioners here ever since because the people didn't run out the door afterwards.
Once these churches acted as the nucleus of not only the parish, but of a self-sustaining neighborhood that catered to both the congregation's spiritual as well as their physical needs.
It was a thriving neighborhood. You had Buczynski's Bakery. You had everything you needed right here in this neighborhood. And then it just slowly deteriorated.
No longer the second largest Polish colony in North America, this area of the city may have been forgotten, but it is not yet extinct.
If you think about cities that are coming back, they're coming back because you have new waves of immigrants. I mean, the Poles were a new wave of immigrants when they came in. It adds a different culture, it adds a different vibrancy. It took Broadway Fillmore a little longer for it to happen.
Although the neighborhood seems to be evolving and slowly reinventing itself, what of St. Adalbert's?
You have to have a presence here, because if you give up your presence here, you won't be here for the rebirth. The difference is, where back in the day it might have been Roman Catholic, Polish National, and Russian Orthodox. Now it's going to be a mosque, maybe a synagogue, and a Roman Catholic church. And that's great, actually, because that's what young people are looking for now. They're not looking for homogeneous neighborhoods. They're looking for places where they can experience life. And that's definitely the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood.
Even though the diocese has tried to shut the church down, these parishioners have taken on the mission of preserving the church and its legacy.
We send in an appeal to Rome to stop them from closing St. Adalbert's. We got the appeal back. We had lost it, so we had to get a canon lawyer, and then we re-appealed to Rome. We won the appeal, and it's a place of worship. It's up to the bishop and the pastor of how many masses we're going to have here.
We do have people coming here. I mean, when we have our limited masses, we have 500 plus people here. And I hope people realize that. I mean, we are viable.
So why is it so important to save this church?
I mean, all you have to do is look around, and you see why it's so important. The art, the architecture, it's honoring our history. I mean, the people who built this church meant for it to be around for centuries. And I think now we're the caretakers of that. And it's our job to make sure it continues to be around for centuries.
The parade is over. The TV show is almost over. Now we get to have fun. Listen to Brave Combo.
Can't wait for it.
Carl Finch from Brave Combo. We've tried to get him here for 7 years. How do you like Buffalo?
Man, I love Buffalo. I've always loved Buffalo. Everybody should come out tonight. We're going to be rocking the polka and the big tent, so don't stay home.
Till 11 o'clock they'll be playing. Come on down. There's still plenty of time. Come on down to Pussy Willow Park. Thanks, Autumn. Thanks, Carl. Thank you, Western New York. Everybody. Dyngus Day.
It's been so amazing. Polka in the streets, and this is Dyngus Day in Buffalo.
It's not just a day, it's a state of mind. Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo. Happy Dyngus Day all across the world.
Happy Dyngus Day, Buffalo.